Alright, so let's talk about a solo developer. This is the developer of the Gameforce devices. So I don't know his name, but let's go through a few of his products and just talk about him in general. So the first is the Gameforce Chi. The Gameforce Chi has three models, and they're all just color changes: green, orange, and gray. So the Chi is a much lower powered, low price system. It has the RK3326 chip, which is on a lot of other retro handhelds, and it has 1 GB of RAM, which is normal for this chipset. There's no easy way to just apples to apples compare it to other devices because it's such a low end chip, but it can play up to N64 and PSP with relatively good consistency. Um, so the Chi actually blew up, which is kind of cool. It was slightly more expensive than the other devices in this price point, but that's fine. It looked pretty cool. It tried to follow a Neo Geo Pocket kind of way, where it had like large bezels and text, making it look more like a kid's toy, which some people like, which some people don't. I don't like it personally, but I can see that some people like it. Um, Retro Game Core had a few problems with the buttons and screen, but those are kind of minor problems, and other consoles had these same problems. So it's not something that I would like take away from from the Gameforce developer. So I can't see how this did well. And so there's two new products, the Gameforce Ace and Indie. The Ace is an RK3588 chip, and this one's Android. And I'll just explain a few chips. This is a Rock chip 64-bit 8-core, 4 A76 cores, 4 A55 cores. The GPU is an ARM Mali G610 MC4, and it apparently has a built-in AI accelerator NPU thing. It supports OpenGL, ES 3.2, OpenCL 2.2, and Vulkan 1.1. It has 450 G flops, and the NPU computing power is up to 6 tops, whatever the last one means. It also has 8 GB RAM and 128 GB internal. There is an upgraded version where you can get 256 internal, but I feel like that's overkill. It has Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 2.4. It also has 8. Sorry, I already said that. It has a 5.5-inch 1080p touchscreen and video out. And this all goes for 230 USD before taxes and shipping and whatnot. That is quite expensive, but you do get GameCube and PS2 performance out of it. But a device from like Retroid or AIM can probably do it better. I'm gonna compare this $230 handheld. That's what the lower model is, for the Ace, and I'm gonna compare it against the Retro Pocket 4 Pro's $200 price point. Yeah. So they both have 128 internal. The 128 internal is normal for this like chipset size, or like, yeah. And the Ace has an ARM V8 ISA, but the 4 Pro has a V8.2, so that's 0.2 more, a ISA. There's a 2 nanometer difference between the two in the how the processing thing is. So this will get you better battery life on the one that is lower. So this is 8 nanometer and 6 nanometer. The 4 Pro has a 6 nanometer process. They both have 8 cores and 8 threads, but the clock speeds are quite a bit higher on the Retro Pocket 4 Pro. So there's a 0.2 gigahertz clock speed boost on both the regular clock and the turbo clock. So that will help out in emulation and, yeah, just emulation. The battery life on the 4 Pro is gonna be better. It has a 10-watt TDP, and the Ace has about a 12-watt TDP. So TDP is like the highest amount it'll draw. So if you're pushing it hard, I feel like the Ace will, use up more power. But then just like to compare the batteries, the Ace has a 5,500 milliamp hour battery, while the 4 Pro has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So I feel like because of this, it will even out over time, and you're not really going to get much more battery life out of one or the other. The sad thing for the Ace, though, is there's more than double the GPU execution units from 4 to 9, more than double the shading units from 64 to 144. And the 4 Pro's GPU clock speed is 250 megahertz faster. The GPU FP32 floating point is nearly 200 gigaflops more on the 4 Pro. Now to just end it off, let's just say the Geekbench scores. So I'm gonna run numbers, but just know the bigger one is the 4 Pro always. Geekbench 4 single core is 2,423 and 3,710. How about multi-core? Well, it's 8,162 and 13,194. Let's switch Geekbenches. Geekbench 5 single core is 508 and 748. Multi-core, I bet you're asking? Well, that's 2,235 and 2,849. So you can see that the 4 Pro is quite a bit better. But the thing is, you have to remember, this is an indie developer doing the Gameforce Ace. So you gotta give him some slack. But the Gameforce Ace does have a bigger screen, higher resolution screen as well, and a bigger battery. Well, how about the Indie? It's a cheaper handheld, and it takes on the legacy that like 10 other handhelds have done, so it's really not a new thing. It uses the 3566 chip. This is found in the RG353V. I think the RK2023, not sure about that one though. The RG353P, I think it's also in the PS and VS like models of the two devices I stated. So this is getting very old, but that's okay. It can do a good amount of N64 and PSP and all those other things. It can do it better than the Chi could, so that is a nice upgrade. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is way too much. All the other ones, the 353V, P, PS, RK2023, so all of these ones had either 1 or 2 gigabytes. The V and P had 2, but the rest had 1. The 2 gigabytes is just for Android, but it's just kind of weird to have 4 gigabytes on a device. It also has 32 internal, which is normal for these low-end Android devices. Yeah, and it is running Android if I didn't mention that. And I'm not going to give a spec comparison because you can literally watch like any review and it should be very close. The 4 gigabytes RAM will help out a bit. Just keep that in mind if you are watching a review. Yeah. So again, it can play up to N64 and PSP pretty well, better than this Chi version. And there's currently no prices out. I'm gonna say it's gonna be 120, 130 area. It's projected at 110, but I highly doubt that because the RG353V, even though it is an old device, I understand that, is $100 flat. So somehow you add $10, you get a much better screen, bigger battery, you get double the RAM. Yeah, for like $10. I know that the chip is probably cheaper now, but like that's really not gonna do much. So there are a few problems with the Gameforce things. I'm taking these from Joy's Retro Handhelds. I don't have the device in hand, so sorry. I can't really tell you exactly from my perspective. So on the software side, things like the Play Store, joystick calibration, and triggers are literally just all messed up. There's also speaker problems. So basically, they're out of phase. This means that the stereo speakers, and for stereo speakers to work well, they have to work in tandem, talk to each other. Hey, I'm playing this sound. Hey, I'm playing this side, kind of thing. But it seems like they aren't really doing much to talk to each other, and they're just fighting each other. And they play at like different times. The fan is also complete crap. It makes a weird whirring noise, and this is quite similar. Like these problems are quite similar to the KTR1 by another solo dev. I just hope that the software problems can be solved soon, which the KTR1 dev really couldn't do. I think that these are probably easier fixes. I personally couldn't do it, but somebody that knows more about software could. So I just did give a few more regular problems. But I missed one kind of on purpose. I missed a screen issue where for some reason the screen just runs at 50 hertz. And you might think, oh, it's fine. It's 50 hertz screen. You can run PAL ROMs or it's fine. But the thing is, it doesn't work with the system. The system will run differently than the screen will. So what you see on screen will be different than your button inputs. Like you press a button and then this weird lag. And then like the speakers, again, even though they're out of phase now, it's even worse because it's reporting to the system that it's 60 hertz. I'm not sure if it actually is reporting to the system 60 hertz, but as a developer myself, that's how I feel like it would make these mistakes. So nothing even runs, and if it does run, it runs like horribly, like the sound and whatnot. But it sucks because on paper, this is a pretty good handheld, and this thing is just like shoving it into the ground. Um, so now's not really the time to get it. It's not worth it at the moment. It probably will be once you like fix it. Um, but I just can't stress this enough. It sucks that he made these few mistakes because now people, will be frustrated and not want it. And it's just a few tweaks that he has to do, like maybe buy new speakers, switch out the screen, or fix the screen, and all these little things. Yeah, so I think the Gameforce has a bit more work to do, but once they do iron out these like smaller problems, um, I know they're not all that small, like the screen issue, but once they iron out these problems, I think they can do well and get some pretty good sales. So, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.